Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin, and today we are going to be nailing the last two tenses, the future perfect tense and the pluperfect. Okay, now the future perfect tense means I will have done something. So I will have loved, I will have read, I will have ruled, that sort of thing. Okay, now it's a new set of endings to learn, but we're getting good at learning endings now, so this won't cause you any difficulty. And when I show you these endings, you'll be particularly pleased, I think, because they are, as of very recently, quite familiar endings. Amar wero, amar weris, amar werit, amar werimus, amar weritis, amar werint. Okay, now the first thing to notice is that these endings are being added onto the perfect stem of the verb. Okay, so if we were doing it for moneo, would be going monu ero, monu eris, monu erit, monu erimus, monu eritis, monu erint. Okay, our old friend cado, with its weird principal parts, cado, cadere, kekidi, Carson. The future perfect of cado would be kekidero, kekideris, kekiderit, kekiderimus, kekideritis, kekiderint. Okay, now I said they would look familiar to you, and that is because they are essentially, not quite but really close to being, the future tense of sum. Now we learnt that last time actually, aro, aris, arit, arimus, aritis, arunt. And the endings we're learning here for the future perfect are pretty much those, except it's erint at the end of the third person plural in the future perfect, not arunt as it would be in the future tense of sum. But apart from that, they're pretty jolly easy. Okay? And just while I've kind of got you focused on new endings and this link with sum, the pluperfect tense, and that's the last one we're going to learn in this book, the pluperfect tense means I had loved, I had warned, I had ruled. Okay, and for amo, it goes amar weram, amar weras, amar werat, amar weramus, amar weratis, amar werant. Okay, now those endings really are the imperfect tense of sum. Aram, aras, arat, aramus, aratis, arant. Okay? And the same deal, they are added onto the perfect stem of the verb, whatever that might be. So we'll jump straight into our friend cado. Cado, cadere, kekidi, carsum. The pluperfect tense of cado would be kekid eram, kekid aras, kekid arat, kekideramus, kekideratis, kekiderant. Okay? And just to kind of complete the circle with the verb to be, if you wanted the pluperfect tense of the verb to be, right? So it would mean I had been, right? You know, I had been sad, but now I'm fine, sort of thing. You would go to the perfect stem of sum, which you will remember, sum esse fui. So you go to fu, and then you add aram. Fu eram, fu eras, fu erat, fu eramus, fu eratis, fu erant. That would be the pluperfect tense of sum. I had been, you had been, he, she, or it had been, we had been, you had been, they had been. Okay? Right, now those are the last two of the 6 tenses of Latin verbs. They are the 6 active voice tenses. Now when we go into book 2 of this course, I'm going to tell you about the difference between active and passive. And they are the 6 active indicative tenses. And again, when we go into book 2, or it might be book 3, I forget, I'm going to tell you about the difference between indicative and subjunctive. But for now, big pat on the back, we've nailed 6 active voice tenses of our Latin verbs: the present tense, the future tense, the imperfect tense, the perfect tense, the future perfect tense, and the pluperfect tense. Okay, now I'll just do a couple of little sentences to show you the future perfect and pluperfect working. And then I'm just going to finish this video with a little bit of translating from English into Latin, combining all the things we've been doing so far. Okay, so for example, if you had a sentence like milites hostes mox caperint. Okay, normal rules, go to the verb first, caperint. Now, you possibly at this stage are picking up on, these funny perfect stems. Caperint is coming from capio, capere, capi. So caperint, erint is this new ending we've just learned, third person plural, future perfect tense. So caperint is they will have captured, or a noun in the nominative plural, will have captured. Okay, so we go to the front of a sentence looking for a nominative plural. We've actually got two candidates. We've got milites and hostes, which isn't really helpful because with third declension nouns there is no way of knowing which is nominative, vocative or accusative. But when that happens, the basic rule is the first one will be the subject and the second one will be the object. It's not completely bomb-proof. If the context made that absurd, then obviously common sense kicks in. But here what we've got is milites, the soldiers, caperint, will have captured. Who will they have captured? Hostes, the enemy. And we've got the word mox, which means soon. So the soldiers will soon have captured the enemy. Okay? Another one. Dux servos monuerit. Normal rules, go to the verb first. Monuerit. Well, that's from moneo, and it's future perfect. You can see that perfect stem, monu, and then erit on the end. So, monuerit, he, she, or it will have warned. He, she, it, or a noun in the nominative singular, if there is one. We go to the front of the sentence, and there we have dux. So, the leader will have warned the slaves. Okay, nice and easy. Now we'll do a couple of pluperfect ones. So something like agricola quem gladio vulneraverat. Okay, go to the verb first. Vulneraverat, from vulnero to wound. So he, she, or it had wounded. Right? Then we need to know, is there a subject in the nominative case? And at the front of the sentence we've got agricola. So, the farmer had wounded. Now, who had he wounded? We're looking for an object in the accusative case, and we've got quem, the citizen. So the farmer had wounded the citizen, and then you're left with gladio. Now, gladius means a sword, so that's us et e o. It's either dative or ablative. Pretty obvious that here it means the farmer had wounded the citizen with a sword. Okay? And then just one more. Vocem poeli femina audiverat. Okay? Go to the verb first. Audiverat. That's the third person singular pluperfect tense of audio. So he, she, or it had heard. Now, who had heard? We're looking for a subject in the nominative case. We go to the beginning of the sentence, we find vocem, well, that's no good. And then just to check, we go down the track, puelli, that's no good. Femina, now femina. Well, that's actually looking pretty much like a nominative singular. You know, you might say, well, why is it coming so late in the sentence? Well, as you know, Latin does allow you to play around with word order just to, create different types of emphasis. So, femina, nominative singular, the woman had heard. Now, what had the woman heard? We're looking for that object, and we've got wokem. So the woman had heard the voice. And then you're left with put li, well, genitive singular would make sense. Could be dative singular, but that wouldn't have made sense. So the woman had heard the voice of the girl. Okay? So these last two tenses, we've done them both in a bit of a rush because actually you already know how to form tenses on the third principal part of a verb, that perfect stem. And so what we've given you today is two tenses to add to that perfect stem, in addition to the one you already knew, which was the perfect tense itself, the isti, it, imus, istis, erunt one. So we're now adding these two different tenses, but these two different tenses are almost identical to the tenses we learned last time, the future tense of sum and the imperfect tense of sum. So suddenly everything has come together in a bit of a kind of happy rush, and we've nailed, last lesson we nailed the verb to be in its first four tenses. Today we've learnt the final two active tenses that we wanted to teach you, the future perfect and the pluperfect. So now we can go back and add those onto the verb sum, and suddenly you can do all your Latin verbs in any one of these six active voice tenses: present, future, imperfect, perfect, future perfect, or pluperfect. Okay, so what an amazing result that was. Okay, now, as promised, I just want to do a little bit of work on translating from English into Latin, because I've always said, and I'll say it again, the way to be sure that you've understood all of this stuff is to translate from English into Latin. Okay, there is no room for guesswork. When you're coming the other way, there is a slight option of a bit of a guess here and there. But when you're going from English into Latin, you cannot guess, and if you can do it correctly without guessing, everything else is a doddle. Okay, so this little passage we're going to do now is loosely based on exercise 10.7, which is on page 91 of the book. And I'm just going to pull out some little bits that we can do just so that we're practicing the things I want to practice, which we've covered recently. Okay, so let's begin with Gaius Mucius was a strong soldier. Okay, now Gaius Mucius is a name, Latin names, but they are nouns, and normally they go, if they end in us, they're going like annus, and if they end in a, they go like mensa. So, Gaius Mucius, that's our subject. Now, he was a strong soldier. The verb to be, as we've learnt, doesn't have to go at the end of the sentence. Very often it doesn't. So we're going to do it now, get it out of the way. Gaius Mucius erat. Okay, so that's he, she, or it was. Gaius Mucius erat. Now, what was he? He was a strong soldier. Now, you will remember from last time, I hope, that the verb to be is followed by a complement in the nominative case. Okay? Do not try to give it an accusative kind of object type thing. That would be a disaster. So, Gaius Mucius erat miles validus. Okay, validus means strong or brave, and miles is a soldier. They are both in the nominative singular case. Miles is masculine, and so validus is being put in the masculine nominative singular. Okay. The soldier walked towards the camp of the enemy. Okay, nice and simple there. Subject is the soldier. Miles. Walked is the verb, and we'll do that at the end because that's a normal verb that goes at the end of the sentence. So the soldier walked. Now he walked towards the camp. Now the Latin for to when it means towards is ad, followed by the accusative case. So we want ad, and then the Latin for camp in the accusative case. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but the Latin for camp is a bit peculiar. It's a word that is always found in the plural. It's castra. But that word castra is in fact the plural form of castrum, which goes like bellum. Castrum basically means a tent, and in the plural it comes to mean, well, obviously the tents, but it means the camp, as in a kind of military camp. So, accusative plural of castra, going like bellum, blah, blah, blah. So it's ad castra. Okay? Now, towards the camp of the enemy, Latin for enemy is hostis, and hostis is a third declension, non-increasing noun. So the genitive plural of hostis is hostium. Think of kiwis in the plural. Kiwes, 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 kiwium. So hostium is of the enemy. And then finally our verb walked. The soldier walked towards the camp of the enemy. Now with walked, you've kind of got a choice. That is a simple past. So it doesn't say was walking, and it doesn't say has walked. So you have to choose. Do we think it's an imperfect tense type of simple past, a kind of continuous action in the past? Or is it much more a sort of something that got done? In which case we would have used the perfect tense. Actually, the choice is yours, really. I'm not particularly fussed. You might say walking is a sort of continuous type of thing. But I would sort of argue that the point of this sentence, the soldier walked towards the camp, is that something's going to happen, but it happens after this thing. The soldier walked towards the camp. So I'm going to put that in the perfect tense and go for ambulavit. But if you put ambular but, nobody would be cross. Okay. Next sentence. The soldier had hidden a sword. Okay, so we pick up the soldier, miles, is our subject. The verb had hidden is going to go at the end. We'll do that last. But just remember, when we get there, it's going to be a pluperfect tense. Now, what had he hidden? He had hidden a sword. That's the object. It's going in the accusative case. It's singular. Latin for sword is gladius. So, gladium. So we've got miles, gladium, and then we want had hidden. The Latin for to hide is calo. Calo, calare, calari, calatum. Goes like ammo. So, had hidden, he had hidden, calaverat. Okay, so we've got miles, gladium, calaverat. Now then, a little bit of direct speech, exciting here. Why have you killed the slave? Asked the king. Okay, Latin for why, cur, siwa, cur. Now we're introducing a question. Cur, have you killed? Remember, you spin it round and that becomes you have killed. Verb at the end though, so let's get the object out of the way. Why have you killed the slave? So, accusative singular of servus, and we get servum. So, cur servum, and then have you killed? Latin for a kill is neco, goes like ammo, neco, necare. So, why have you killed? Necavisti. Cur servum necavisti. And then we have asked the king. In other words, the king was the one doing the asking. And I don't know if you remember, I've told you this before, the way you introduce direct speech in Latin is most correctly using the word inquit, if the person asking is singular, or inquiunt, if plural. So although the Latin for to ask is roggle, a better way of translating asked the king would be to use inquit. So we would have cur gladium necavisti inquit rex. And when you translate that, because you can see it's a question, you would translate it as asked the king. But again, if you put rogavit rex, no one would be sad. Okay, 2 last sentences. The slave was not the king, said the guards. Okay, the slave was not the king. Servus non erat. And then the word for king, be careful with this one. The verb to be is followed by a complement in the nominative case. So, servus non erat rex. That word rex in the nominative case agreeing with servus. And then again you've got said the guards, inquiunt custodes. Okay, or you could have said maybe dixerunt for said. Inquiunt would be slightly better. And then finally, soon a Roman soldier will have killed the king. Mox miles Romanus, nominative case for the subject. Verb at the end, will have killed. So what will they have killed? The king, that's the object, regem. And then our verb will have killed necaverit. Okay, so there's just a little run through translating English into Latin using our 2 new tenses, using the verb to be, and being very careful about the verb to be being followed by a complement in the nominative case. Okay, right, that's enough for now. In our next lesson, we're going to round off book 1 and everything we've learned in book 1 of the course. We're going to have a little quiz. I'm going to get my 2 guinea pig daughters down to do a little quiz, and look forward to seeing you then before we move on boldly into book 2 of the